Hello everyone, my name is Chris and I'm in the cybersecurity program here at UC. And what I kind of wanted to do my report on was the newest, latest, greatest, some of these concepts that have been kicked around, the Internet of Things, and that being mashed or coming together with the bring your own device to work policy. And that's been something that's been very kind of near and dear to my heart lately, working in the workplace over probably the last 6 months to a year. So what is the Internet of Things? I think a lot of us have a very good idea of what the Internet of Things is, but maybe fail to look forward down the road and maybe see what things are coming. Or maybe what things kind of start to come out of the woodwork. So down below I've listed a few things that are kind of making their way out there, more or less even in the home scenario here. We have like smoke alarms. I know a lot of smart phones have the applications that you can go download and you can see what your smoke alarm's doing. Thermostats, adjusting those remotely is always nice, especially if you're away on vacation. And of course, baby monitors. I mean, this isn't old school, basically walkie-talkies anymore. These are like fully internet capable, video operational devices where you can see your baby whenever and wherever you want. But along with that, so can everybody else. But just when you think you've heard it all before, there are things that seemingly come out of the woodworks and blindside you. I've seen like postage stamp machines that they serve a legitimate business purpose, such as obviously weighing and doing your cost of shipping right there on location versus having to go to the post office. But then even those require internet connectivity to go out and order more stamps. And then moving on, we kind of have that the physical aspect of the Internet of Things kind of meshing with the policy or the concept of bringing your own device to work. And I think going to that, a lot of us picture bringing your own device to work is really doing currently what we've always been doing, which is bringing your cell phone, bringing your laptop, bringing your tablet and playing that. I mean, and over the past, a lot of our companies' policies have restricted that. I mean, I remember working at McDonald's when I was 16 or 17. You weren't allowed to bring your cell phone. I mean, the saying was, you got time to lean, you got time to clean. So that was kind of this, I feel like an older school mentality of, if you're on your device, you must be doing something you shouldn't be. But I think companies are now kind of seeing some of the benefits to letting people bring in their own device, and they are changing that attitude and that policy moving forward. And then you may ask, what would be a benefit to the company moving forward? Why would they want you to bring your own device? Well, cost of equipment is an example. I mean, there's applications that can be now downloaded to your smartphone, and you can log in strictly to those applications to access your company resources. And when you quit or leave that company, those applications can be remotely wiped from your cell phone. But the company didn't have to fork out any cost to that equipment. There's no rental, there's no monthly stipend, there's no repair cost involved. It is strictly you maintaining the device for them, and all they did was put an application out into like an app store for you to download for free. So there is a benefit to you bringing your own device to work, mostly the cost savings from the support aspect for paying for it, but also on the downside is, of course, bringing your own device to work, which does open up its own kind of can of worms there and its own problems. And these benefits and these problems aren't going to go anywhere anytime. Looking at the chart here of the Internet of Things here and the projected growth, currently we are around a little more probably from 2014, but around 16 billion wirelessly connected devices. And to give you an idea, if you recall, the IPv4 supports up to about 4.3 billion IP addresses at the max. So we've clearly exhausted IPv4. And then as we move forward here, we're going to continue to exhaust it, because if you look here, by the year 2020, it's projected that we're going to more than double that to 40.9 billion devices. And the types of devices that are going to be out there are going to be, 75% of them are going to come from devices such as sensors and accessories. And if you think about it, we got accessories out there that are like, I know when I worked at one corporation, they were adding like temperature sensors in their food cases. So that way they don't have to do manual monitoring anymore, and paper counts and other items with people's cars, wirelessly enabled cars that can report back to the manufacturer, or other sensors out there like traffic sensors, motion sensors for the road, essentially while you're driving, to kind of track and monitor the flow of vehicles. But wherever these added sensors and accessories come from, they're still going to create a few problems going forward because of the expectations that everything needs to be connected now. And that is going to be a shortcoming for many companies moving forward in handling the weight of these requests. Now, as was alluded to, some of the problems moving forward will be vulnerabilities from unsecured devices inside your network, which in the past policy has always been, make sure they're kept off the network, make sure they're not brought in, make sure policy kind of reflects that, what will happen if there's a violation of these policies, what the expectation is set by business. So in the past, it's always been kind of, let's not bring them, let's not talk about them. But as the proliferation of BYOD has increased, you can't hide these anymore. You can't just, keep them at home and hope nobody brings them in. They're going to be coming in. So some of the problems that are going to have to be addressed are vulnerabilities now, especially as viruses targeting smartphones increases. The other problem is with bringing all these devices in is that Internet of Things connectivity, trying to keep everything on the network. What kind of offerings will there be? What kind of connectivity will be allowed? Can any device go out to anywhere, straight out to the internet? Is there only certain approved companies or IP addresses that are allowed for certain devices that are deemed business appropriate? And finally, what I find lacking often in many companies I've been at is a IT policy that actually reflects what is happening. I mean, often you might at best get a vague statement about BYOD, bringing your own devices, and connectivity, but maybe adding a little more to that, or beefing that up a bit. And by beefing that up, we're going to have to actually add to the policy and put examples of items that people are allowed to bring with them, such as, maybe the policy will allow for one or two devices associated with that user on the guest wireless or the guest BYOD, for example. That your cell phone, your laptop, and your tablet can come, but we're only going to allow, 2 or 3 devices max on that wireless network associated with your profile. Also, a great example I've had added in the past maybe to a policy would be to put examples of few devices that aren't allowed. Maybe a wireless coffee maker that tries to dial out and tries to refill its own coffee orders whenever it feels like it's running low. K-cups, for example. Or, putting some things in there like maybe the Fitbit. Maybe we don't want the, your health statistics, flowing over our network, even if it is going to a doctor that is through the healthcare provider that our company offers. We're just not going to allow that. So putting that in there to kind of snip those in the butt ahead of time, or giving kind of the help desk or people on the ground something to point to and say, that's already been addressed and we're already not allowing that. But if we did want to allow it, there is going to be a mechanism that that ticket can be created. It can be forwarded to information security, and a business justification can be put behind it. That maybe there's a new technology or a new device needed to work with a customer. Again, it's all about revenue. So maybe, for example, I saw one company that needed a a third party to remote into maybe their controllers to manage some of the manufacturing equipment. And updating policy and all that aside is nice to kind of, help maybe alleviate the workload or answer some questions, but there is still technology out there that helps to address the evolution of the Internet of Things. Nothing really I've seen as a silver bullet, but some of the things I've seen have been like Cisco Identity Service Engine, which can go out there and run a little code on your operating system and kind of look at your registry keys and look and see, is there antivirus installed? Are we protected? Are we at a certain level or a certain revision that we will allow on our network? And if not, we're not going to allow you on the network. And just maybe a basic overall architecture for your network inside your company is segmenting that traffic off. I think any kind of PCI compliance is going to require that, of course, to make sure that things are separated out on your network. But also, you want to create that separate VLAN for it. You want to create that separate wireless SSID so devices can see it, they can connect to it, they can successfully be postured, making sure that we have the correct items we require to be on that. And ultimately, they're piped out separately right out to the Internet. In addition to, we can decide if we don't want them to go right out to the Internet. If we wanted them to be internal, we can also have Mac-based authentication through ICE. So the first 6 of any MAC address is reserved for a manufacturer. So if you can get a more detailed list of maybe what manufacturers and which Macs go together, you can kind of correlate which devices are kind of out there on your network, and you can actually develop a policy that can be created for that. So that way, if maybe an iPhone connects, it's going to go straight out to the Internet. But if maybe an iPad connects, that could be considered valid for the company, and you could have a policy applied where they might route internally. Most of them are going to go out to the Internet, but you could look more specifically at the Mac or the group or the manufacturer that device belongs to, and you can start applying certain kind of rules to just that group. But be warned, it kind of does start to grow into an administrative nightmare, because you're always going to have new devices coming into the network, and those might get escalated up through the different levels of support, and you might find that that Mac hasn't been added, to the access list, basically, that we want to apply that policy to. So it does become a little bit of a overhead when administrating it through that method, which is why I mentioned earlier about, not really being a silver bullet, but, it's growing. These types of ideals are growing, and they are coming along as the development for the Internet of Things is. And developing even to the point of newer protocols like Zigbee Wireless are out there. So devices can kind of just form networks among themselves and start relaying information. Ever increasing is IPv6, which is growing, which in the last year or two has reached about 2% growth. So to kind of alleviate the bottlenecks that have been with IPv4. So the technology is progressing, it's out there, but just be cautioned, there's still no silver bullet for dealing with all of this yet. And in conclusion, the Internet of Things will continue to grow, but it can be managed. I just think you have to educate your end users on the expectation level of what can and can't be brought, and maybe kind of the service level agreement if tickets are being placed for connectivity problems, that your cell phone is not going to be a drop everything and take care of it kind of response, that it might be a couple days till it gets around to. I think that with the correct policy and kind of the correct expectation set, we can effectively manage our IT resources so that the companies aren't buckling under the weight of added costs, because the support is going to actually increase. That concludes my report, and thank you for watching.